Hello friends, my name is Rachel and I'm from Hope City Church. So I hope you're doing well today. We are still in the sermon series called Freedom is Here, and today one of our church members, Ron Yates, preached, and his sermon title was Death, the Last Enemy, which was really good. Unfortunately, something happened with our live stream and we had technical difficulties, and we didn't have live streaming today, so I'm so sorry you had to miss out on that. And to be honest, my husband and I ended up having to leave church a little bit early today, so we didn't even get to hear all of the message. But I have my handy dandy sermon guide, which you can still download from our Facebook page. So I've been reading over kind of what Ron was, talking about. I'm sure, knowing Ron, there was much more that we missed out on. But anyway, I know that Ron started out with talking about death, as far as people who know Christ, how we shouldn't be afraid, to die physically, because that's really kind of where life begins. Once our physical body dies. But I'm going to come at this from a little bit different angle and just use what God has spoke to me about that, just from reading what the sermon guide notes are. And so I'm coming at this from more like death being a way of thinking, a way of life. And so death, the last enemy. All right. So first of all, Christ died so that we would never be separated. Christ didn't just die so that we could go to heaven. I mean, certainly he did, but he died so that we would never be separated from him, and so that we can also have victory in this life while we're here on this earth. Okay, but that takes our spirit to be reborn, but our mind also has to be renewed, because we are born in this world, and our mindset, for the most part, ends up being already sin and death mindset. Okay? All right. So I'm going to look at a couple verses that Ron talked about today, and it was in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and I'm going to start in 55 and just read 55 and 56. It says, "O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? Now, sin is the sting of death, and sin exercises its power upon the soul through the abuse of the law." And Ron looked that up, looked the word sting up in the original language, and it has several different meanings, but one of them was an iron goad used for urging oxen or horses and other beasts of burden. So in other words, they had basically this huge iron poker, and when their oxen or horses or whatever were hooked up to their yoke, they could kind of poke them and prod them and get them to go. It was used for other things like breaking up the ground and that sort of thing, but it was mainly used to poke these animals to make sure that they keep moving along and working up the soil. Okay? So that also reminded me of something else, which seems totally unrelated, but I promise you I'm going to relate those two. So if you'll keep that in mind about an iron goad or an iron poker. So do you remember in school, I don't know if y'all did this, but we did this for science. We would have two 2-liter bottles, which I have some smaller bottles here because that's all we had, and I don't think I could fit those larger ones on screen actually. But so I have these two. We would put these together and we would make little tornadoes. So you'd swish them, and then when they run out, it would have this little tornado. Okay, and then it will just run into the bottom, All right. So, but what this makes me think of when it says the sting of death is sin. Sin always causes a spiral reaction. Okay, so I'm thinking of this like that iron goad. Sin, the enemy, the mindset of this world, death, whatever you want to call it, it's all one and the same, is always poking you and prodding you to do something a certain way. And then once you do it, you're all stirred up and messed up, and then everything just keeps going in a spiral, down, never in a good place, and then it finally completely leaves you empty. And then you're okay for a while, you might get a break, another poke and prod from that iron goad, and it happens again, and it always continually leaves you empty. That is what sin and death does to us, okay? That's the mindset of the world. And for me, that's kind of what Ron was talking about, just for me, and what God was speaking about, that we've got to break away from that reaction spiral. But the thing is, we already have freedom from all of that. We just have to spend time with God and spend time in His Word to renew our mind, so that we're not thinking like that, so we're not allowing that iron goad to poke and prod us to do things a certain way, so that we're not left empty and spiraling down. And so the last part of 1 Corinthians 15 says, 57 and 58, it says, "But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory, making us conquerors through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be firm, steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, always being superior, excelling, doing more than enough in the service of the Lord." That superior word is not meaning like snobby or lofty or anything like that. It's just doing our absolute best. Thinking superior. How can I do this best for God? Anyway, knowing and being continually aware that your labor in the Lord is not futile. It is never wasted or to no purpose. And God, the work in the Lord is never futile. It is not like this. It doesn't do this and then just leave us empty. It always brings light and life to our lives and to other lives. So that's all I have for you tonight. I hope that makes sense, or at least this kind of strikes a chord with you, that you remember that that's before we make decisions, but that's what happens to us when we choose the death or sin mindset. Y'all have a great week this week, and if you're going back to school, have a good first week of school. Bye, y'all. Love you.